I don't think we actually, did we actually just get out of close? I don't know if I did the resolution to get out of close, so.
No, if you wanted to do that.
I'll just do it now. Move by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor McKenzie. The Council of Town of Minto resumes at open council. Anybody opposed? No. Okay, good. All right. And moved by Councillor Gudson, second by Councillor Anderson. The Corporation of Town of Minto is a shareholder of West Ontario Power Inc. Do you want to read the rest of it?
Certainly, Mayor Bridge. So through you, this is a resolution that council is passing out of closed session. Again, moved by Councillor Gudson and second by Councillor Anderson, that the Corporation of the Town of Minto is a shareholder of West Ontario Power Inc., West Ontario, and further that West Ontario is governed by the terms and conditions of a shareholders agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Huron-Kinloss, the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine, the Corporation of the Municipality of South Bruce, the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores, the Corporation of the Town of Wingham, the Corporation of the Municipality of Brockton, the specified municipalities, the Corporation of the Town of Hanover, 1445674 Ontario Inc., Hanover Electric Services Inc., the Town of Minto, the Corporation of the Town of Hanover, and the Town of Minto are referred as the amalgamated municipality, and together with the specified municipalities, the municipalities, Minto Hydro Inc., Minto Hydro Services Inc., Canadian Niagara Power Company Limited, 1446563 Ontario Inc., West Ontario Power Holdings Inc., West Ontario Power Services Inc., and West Ontario Power Inc., dated October 26, 2000, the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement. And further, that the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement set forth an ownership structure that consists of a holding company defined in the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement as the corporation held by the municipalities, and two wholly owned subsidiaries of the holding company, with one operating a regulated local distribution company pursuant to the Electricity Act 1998, defined in the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement as Wireco, and as unregulated subsidiary that would operate businesses as permitted by the Energy Competition Act 1998 and other applicable legislation defining the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement as Servco. And further, that it is not known why the shareholders of West Ontario deviated from the terms and conditions of West Ontario Shareholders Agreement, or if there are any amendments to the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement, oral or written, that are authorized West Ontario current ownership and operating structure. And further, that the Corporation of the Town of Minto has determined that it is advisable in the best interest of West Ontario to implement a reorganization and to carry out the original intent of the West Ontario Shareholders Agreement, which includes, among other things, the transfer of all issued and outstanding shares of West Ontario to Holdco following its incorporation by the shareholders of the corporation, the reorganization. Therefore, be it resolved that the reorganization described in Schedule A, which will be attached to the minutes here too, is hereby authorized and approved. The execution, delivery, and performance of all agreements, documents, certificates, and instruments I'm not even going to say that word again, by the reorganization documents is hereby authorized and approved. The Chief Administrative Officer or his or her delegate is authorized and directed on behalf of the Town of Minto to execute and deliver all documents, instruments, and other writings, and to perform and do all acts and things that the director or officer consider necessary or desirable to give the effect to these resolutions. The Chief Administrative Officer and his or her delegate is authorized and directed on behalf of the Town of Minto to negotiate, finalize, execute, and deliver the reorganization documents, and with any additions, deletions, amendment, or any other changes which the Chief Administrative Officer or his or her delegate officer may approve, that approval to be conclusively evidenced by the execution and delivery of the final form of the reorganization document by the Chief Administrative Officer or his or her delegate. The Chief Administrative Officer or his or her delegate is authorized and directed on behalf of the Town of Minto to execute and deliver all documents, instruments, and other writings, and to perform and do all acts and things as the director or officer considers necessary or desirable to give effect to these resolutions. All current members of the West Ontario Board are hereby appointed as directors for all newly created companies pursuant to the reorganization, with a governance review to occur in the future depending on the new area of business to be pursued and formalized.
Okay. Thank you for that, Annalene. Any questions? Or I know we've had a discussion on this, so I'll call for the vote. Anybody opposed? Okay, I carried. Okay. Next up is Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor McKenzie, that the minutes of the Town of Minto, November 2nd, 2021 closed session meeting and November 2nd, 2021 regular council meeting be approved. Any comments? A vote? Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay. Additional items. I've got one or two. Anybody else? Jeff? Okay. Right. Okay. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Anderson, the Town of Minto Council convenes into the committee of the whole. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, carried. We have no public meetings. We have a delegation, I believe. Word up to Grove and the 2020 audit report. Is Ryan and Gord are doing that, I believe. There's Ryan.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing, Ryan?
Good. How are you?
That's a nice big table you got there.
Big table, just me.
Just you. Yeah.
Just me. But
Okay. Okay, Gord, I'll turn this over to you to.
Hey, thank you, Mayor Britt. And I'm probably going to turn it right back to Ryan.
Okay.
Let him do his presentation, and then I'll follow up with our report and the resolution.
Thanks, Gord, and thanks, Mayor Bridge. And you guys can hear me okay? Yeah, good. Yeah. Once again, I'm Ryan DL, and I'm a partner at Warden Uppergrove and Listowel. And this has been the fourth year that we've done the audit of the Town of Minto. And I've been the partner in charge every year. And it's been a great opportunity to work with Gord and his staff and council over the 4 years. With respect to 2020, yeah, thanks again, Gord and Mark and all your staff for all your help during the audit. The most important thing that people want to hear is it was a clean audit, and we have a clean audit opinion. And to me, that's the most important part out of all this. Gord, can people see the financials? Do they have copies of the financials in front of them?
They're all included in the package, I believe.
Okay. So I'll just make a few comments. Just in the independent auditor's report, near the very top is the opinion. There's a couple paragraphs there, and paragraph number 2 is where we get to the point where we say, in our opinion, the consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the corporation of the Town of Minto. So that's a clean audit opinion, which is great news. It was a clean audit, and there was a matter that we had to clean up. One item from the prior year financials. It's noted in detail in financial statement note 22, and not a big deal. We fixed something from the prior year. It's fully disclosed, and I'll get to that in a minute when I go over the statement of financial position. If we flip to the consolidated statement of financial position, which is page 3 in the top right-hand corner, this shows all the financial assets and the financial liabilities of the corporation of the Town of Minto. And from 1,000 feet out, big picture, the Town of Minto is in very, very good shape. The financial assets, the top half of the statement of financial position, there's total financial assets of about $16.5 million, which is an increase of about $1.5 million over the prior year. And that's mainly made up of cash, accounts receivable, some portfolio investments, and some other financial assets, such as a loan receivable from North Wellington Healthcare and a long-term investment of $1.6 million, which is the same as the prior year. The financial liabilities just below that have decreased, which is good, from 12.8 million to 12.1 million. So financial assets up, financial liabilities down. Really good news. The financial liabilities make up the trade payables, deferred revenues, and the long-term debt. You'll note that the long-term debt went down about $1 million. So if we take the financial assets less the financial liabilities, we get net financial assets of 4.3 million. Once again, an increase over the prior year's net financial assets of 2.1 million. So to me, that, you know, things are in really good shape. And just below that, there's still over $80 million in tangible capital assets. So like the capital assets of the town of Minto. Okay. Flipping to the next page, the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus. You'll see the middle column, 2020. Total revenues for the year went from 15.8 million to almost $17.4 million. That's a nice increase of 1.5 million. Most of that is government transfers from the province of Ontario. So some of that's cyclical and all comes in at given points in time. 1.2 million of that was a grant from, just over $1 million was a Connecting Links grant. And then there was a Safe Restart grant for RE COVID of almost $290,000. So revenues are up over the prior year. Total expenses are fairly consistent. And 13.439 million the year before, 13.4 million this year. So that's pretty good, keeping your expenses fairly consistent, and the revenues have increased. The annual surplus this year was just over 3.9 million, and it was about 2.4 million the year before. You'll see just below the prior year surplus of 2.3 million, there was a prior period adjustment of 300,000. And that was simply the deputy treasurer during the year noticed Bill 124. And basically there was a building department surplus that couldn't be recognized in net income last year. So we basically went back and allocated it to the reserves, to the deferred revenue. And that's a random one-off thing that happened. And it's a good thing that it's corrected. And this was all submitted by, I believe, Gord and the treasurer to council last April. So I don't think it should be a surprise. Anyways, like I said, it was a clean audit. The Gord's team was very helpful. Controls are very good at the town of Minto, and that's something that you guys can be proud of, and people are doing their job, and we audit it, right? And people are abiding by those controls, and therefore we have a clean audit opinion. That's my spiel, Gord. I don't know if you have anything else to add or if there's any questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, we certainly had a very challenging year. I think, as we're all too familiar, 2020 encompassed 2 months of normal operations, and then we had the pandemic. Meanwhile, we were in the middle of reorganizing our chart of accounts, consolidating our reserves, and also changing the treatment of that Bill 124, which is a building reserve, which, without getting into a lot of technical accounting things, made a lot of changes in presentation as they were converted from an equity to a deferred revenue, which is basically a liability. Anyway, we did get through it all. I think I say every year, the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board statements always look very different from our CAS basis. And like two of the big ones are when we pay principal on our debt, which we did about 1.1 million. That's not an expense on these statements, but we still have to have the money. When we buy a capital asset like a vehicle, or we fix up a building, again, we need 100% of the money in the current year, but for accounting, we write it off, or as in a business, we depreciate it. And that's why maybe the monthly reports that we prepare look quite different from our ending statement. And also, that 85 million, that's great, but it's not liquid. So that represents the greatest chunk of it, well over 90%, that's the value of the historical cost of our assets that we use to deliver services to people, like roads and pipes and buildings and that too. So anyway, we'll certainly entertain any questions, but we've got through it.
Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. So just talking about that, Gord, the tangible capital assets, being as we are putting so much money into the infrastructure, that we're going to see that rise every year.
Yeah, in fact, ever since PSABs come in, normally it stays the same or goes down a bit, but we did so much in 2020 that we've gone from 79.2 to 80.9 million. And yeah, that's one thing. It's kind of two different things go on. As you get more assets, the value goes up, but you've also got more things to write off too. So it depends. There's a lot of good analysis you can do to kind of look beyond the figures and just see. I think one of the ratios is called asset consumption, which is basically how fast you're using your assets, and the assets per household too. That's another important thing. So when you're comparing across municipalities, it's good to have a look at everything. And as you know, an easy way to cut expenses is to stop maintaining your assets, but it's a very temporary gain. So this council and previous ones have been very good at reinvesting in our assets.
Well, it's great to hear Ryan say exactly what he said, how clean we are. I mean, we're used to that, dealing with the staff that we have in our office, Gord, yourself and Mark. So, I mean, it's great. So thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, and Deputy Mayor Turton, I was supposed to turn this over to you anyway, so I'll make my comment and then you'll take it from here, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Just great, and thanks Ryan for that report, and to the staff, as Deputy Mayor Turton has said, it takes good staff to make sure everything is run smoothly, and I really feel we do have that. And as we're moving forward, I know Gord and Mark are working on some really neat things to even give us more clarity in some of our reporting structures as we go forward, so we can have a good handle on things. But I'm sure, Gord, if we put maybe an ad in the paper, we can maybe sell one of those bridges off and maybe get some of that money for us. But I don't think nobody will want one, right?
I don't know. We'll entertain bids, but we'll see.
But yeah, it's tough when it's all the infrastructure is in the ground. But if, as you say, we do have an asset management plan, and it tells us we have to spend X number of dollars every year to maintain those assets. And we certainly do our wastewater and wells. We have a Watson report every 5 years that tells exactly what we have to put in there too. So, yeah, if you don't invest, you can't get the revenues up. But great job, and it's nice to see that movement in some of the areas where we got a positive effect. So I'll turn it back over to Deputy Mayor Turton.
Sure. And I mean, the other thing, Gord, you provide the money, and your guys that are out there with their feet on the ground doing the work, finding all the issues and bringing them forward to you. That's all part and parcel with our staff. And so again, so any other questions for Gord or Ryan? Okay, seeing none, then we've got moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report from the Treasurer dated November 10th, 2021, regarding 2020 audited financial statements, and that the 2020 audited financial statements and financial information return be approved as presented. No more discussion? Anybody against that motion? Seeing none, that motion's passed, and I'll turn the chair. Thank you, Ryan, for being on with us tonight. We appreciate it. And I'll pass the chair back to you, Mayor Rich. And take yourself off mute.
There we go. So I have the correspondence receiving for information. Council, so moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Gutson, the Council of the Town of Minto receives the correspondence for information. Does anybody want to pull anything out of there? Council Dirksen.
Well, we should pull number 10E, I would think.
10E, okay, the Owl Nest School.
So that's up at Reroute Organic.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I think we'd be probably looking for a report from our staff before we would make any decisions, because I don't think we have any reduced speed signs at any other school
Why don't-
zone
Unless
in
you
the
wanna-
rural area.
Yeah, maybe go back to have the staff look into that. You want them to give us sort of a report, maybe.
Well, I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
I did want to comment that I think the fastest tractor in Minto is probably 50K speed limit, so on the tractors, so.
Yeah,
But in any case, I think we need to have a staff report from that, or for that, I should say, before we think about
Okay,
what we
Derek,
might
you
want
want
to
to
do.
just send that back to staff for, have a look at it? Okay,
That's my
Great.
suggestion. I only get one vote, so
We
I
would need
don't
a
have a
mover and a
problem with that.
seconder for that.
I will move
need a
it.
seconder? Councilor Anderson? It's fine. Yeah, that, I then basically have the staff look into it. There's a couple of things we could maybe help them out with as far as maybe,
Well, I think
Definitely.
all of our parochial schools in the country have school signs.
Yeah.
People aware at least, but anyways, that's not really what they asked for, so I think we should
No.
look in further.
all right, we'll bring back some kind of report from Mike on that. Mike, go ahead.
I could, in the meantime, install those school zone signs that are typically at
Yeah,
each individual location in the rural centers. And then if it is warranted, come back with a report with a recommendation or something along that manner. So I can do that too.
yeah, well, a good start. Yeah,
Okay.
good. I'm just thinking whether I mean, the perception of speed is always there, right? So sometimes we can get the blackberry or what now they call, no, not blackbird, or what do they call them?
Cats, black cat.
Black cat,
Yep.
black cat, or something like that if we want to. But I mean, I think the signs would be good. Yep. All right.
And I'm assuming the concern is when people are coming in the morning, to drop off children and picking them up in the afternoon. Like, I don't think the children are playing on the road or anything, because that's a whole other issue. So I think it's just that there's increased traffic there and there's a concern, and we should be concerned about that too.
Mhm. Okay.
For you,
Councilor Annalyn?
Mayor Bridge, I was just going to read up what is said, that Council of the Town of Minto provide a report to council, that the Council of the Town of Minto asked staff to provide a report to council on the request for reduced speed signs at an upcoming meeting. And then you would just need, we have the mover and seconder, but we just need to know if council is all good for that.
Do we want to, okay, I mean, I was just thinking of the council come back with, like, I assume this didn't go to staff yet. This request, did it, Derek?
Through Mayor Bridge, we've been working with the school for some time. There was some other unrelated issues that we dealt with the school. They have since completed all those other issues, and they came back to us with these requests, which were, as Mr. McIsaac has said, is a little bit different than what we would normally do on a rural school. So I think what you're hearing from Mr. McIsaac is we'll put up the school signs, and then we'll do a report back to council whether the speed reduction is warranted or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a whole different thing, speed, because
Yep.
speed can be perception and.
Yeah.
So
I
think
know one other school that the county did a setup, and unfortunately, all the speeders happen to be the parents who are dropping the kids off to school. So, because they were late, right? So, I mean, it was really sad in a way, but it's self, but you have to think that. But anyways, we'll then look at it and get back to it. Sure, safety is important. Okay. Anything else? If not, anybody opposed? Oh, Annalyn, would you got something you want to pull?
I was just waiting for you to say if anyone was opposed to that motion, that's all.
That's what I was asking for. Anybody opposed? Counselor Elliott, you're opposed? Okay. Unopposed, carried. Okay. Do I do the correspondence too, Annalee? I already did that one, right?
Yes, you do the correspondence now for information, please.
Okay, and we passed that, right?
No, you have to read that one.
No. No, I did. Okay, I didn't call the question because we pulled one out. Everything else.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So anybody opposed to the overall correspondence other than one we pulled out? Oh, carried. Okay. All right. Here we are. Reports of committees and town staff. Okay, so we have first up, I'll move it over to Councilor Anderson, take the chair on this one. Go ahead, Councilor Anderson. Oh, you're muted at Jean. There you go. Sorry, I did it too.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. And this is for a report on our Emergency Management Program Committee. And I will turn that over to Herania to provide the report. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, Urania, the age is
Urania,
silent.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
Thank you. No worries. That's great.
Welcome,
Through
Urania.
through you, Mr. Chair. So this report is just a small update we have to make to the Emergency Management Program Committee. So as part of the Regulation 380-04 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, it requires that we appoint an Emergency Management Program Committee to advise Council on the development and implementation of the town's emergency management program. So that in 2005, that resolution was approved, setting out the composition of the town's committee. And then in 2016, that was updated as the emergency management program was being enhanced and to allow for that committee to evolve with the program. So this year, through discussion with our field officer from Emergency Management Ontario, she advised that some changes are necessary to our committee structure from 2016 to continue to meet compliance through the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act and that Regulation 380-04. So we're not making any changes to the specific committee members structure from 2016. There's just a need to identify a committee member as committee chair, and you'll see in the recommendation there that we have appointed the CAO as chair. And then there's also the requirement to remove the as designated or alternate noted beside some of the committee members in the 2016 structure. So those changes have been made in the recommendation. And I'll just say there's just a small mistake on the second line of the recommendation. It should say the Emergency Management Program Committee for the town of Minto and removes an alternate, the same language there, but there was just a small typo there. But otherwise, I'm open to any comments or questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll read out the recommendation that the town of council maintains the 2016 appointments of the Emergency Management Program Committee for the County of Wellington and removes an alternate as designated language per member as follows. Anybody opposed to that? Seeing none, that's passed. And I will pass the chair back to Mayor Bridge.
Okay. We're in planning now. Okay.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, there is still emergency
thought there was
management.
one
There's
more.
another report there yet.
I thought there was. Yeah,
Sorry, my apologies.
that's all right. You go ahead. There's another report for you there.
There is. I'm just having trouble going back and forth from one to the other because I need to be able to see this agenda. I'm trying to get to the second one. And this is the annual emergency management program report. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go. My apologies. And we'll turn it back over to you, Urania.
Thank you so much. Through you, Mr. Chair. So this report just outlines the municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and how the town has fulfilled these requirements for 2021. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of the key things that we've done. So we're required to have a program committee, as I just discussed in the previous report. So we met virtually on April 13th of this year, just to go over the town's emergency management program that includes the hazard identification and risk assessment, emergency response plan, training needs, proposed annual exercise, review of the interim after action report, and COVID-19 and public education. So the committee meeting minutes were attached in this report, and the committee has been updated to meet compliance just now. In terms of the emergency response plan, the new plan was adopted by council in fall of 2020. So any updates that have come out of the interim COVID-19 after action report will be saved until the final after action report that will be completed in 2022. Appendix C has been added to the plan just to clarify titles listed in section 8.3 responsibilities of MECG members by municipality. This was a requirement from the province as well to continue to meet compliance. In terms of training, so the town's municipal emergency control group members, both primary and alternate, have satisfied the training requirements for this year. Of course, due to COVID, most of our training was conducted virtually, and you can see what we offered there. We're hoping that in 2022, we'll be able to offer more options for courses, and hopefully they'll be able to be done in person. As well, for the annual emergency management exercise, this was also done virtually for the town on September 15th, based on our tornado scenario. And really, we were just focused on testing out the new virtual emergency operations center software, EICS, and familiarizing the group with the new emergency response plan and some of the key parts of that plan that were added. So mostly in terms of the recommendations and outcomes, they did find the EICS, that virtual EOC software, useful. We're still ironing out some of the procedures and policies and how to make sure it's everyone understands how to use it fully, and what are the procedures and what should be used when. We did meet with EICS a few days ago to discuss some of the recommendations. So that was good, and we're looking forward to some of those changes being made. A lot of review and clearer assignments of the incident management system came out of the recommendations there. So going forward, we're going to work on the IMS training and really ironing out the clear command and control, unity of command, and the flow of response. And then tying in with that, of course, increased training, of course, due to COVID and the exemption we had in 2020 in terms of an exercise. The members are a little bit more rusty in terms of some of the procedures. So we're looking forward to 2022 to be able to really provide more training and more hands-on in-person training as well. So in terms of public education, we continued working with Wellington Dufferin Guelph Public Health to share some of those key message in terms of COVID. Also for Emergency Preparedness Week this year, we did a lot of the normal outreach and information through the county social media page, the Wellington Advertiser, the Highway 6 billboard signage, but then we also had a 72-hour kit contest via social media. The Emergency Management Program Coordinator organized virtual presentations to elementary schools across the county in collaboration with OPP, Guelph Wellington Paramedic Service, and local fire departments. And we also were able to put together 250 emergency preparedness bags that were provided to the Township of Wellington North and Minto Fire Services for their event, Safe Kids Day in a Box, for students in Northern Wellington County. So we continue with a lot of the same information sharing through, winter driving safety being shared through car and tire businesses. And another new thing we were able to do this year was create a video for Safe Communities Day. That was on October 14th, and that was shared with a total of 603 students across the county, and they were able to ask questions of our staff virtually as well. And we continued with our Do One Thing promotion per month, as you can see listed there. So that was great, and we're really looking forward to 2022 to hopefully be able to do a lot more of our in-person public education. In terms of critical infrastructure, so every municipality is required to identify the facilities and other elements of infrastructure that are at risk of being affected by emergencies. So this list was updated by the town at the committee meeting. And so we're moving over to fully just using the common operating picture map for critical infrastructures. We were managing two information systems before. This will be fully transferred over by early 2022. We were hoping to finish this by the end of 2021, but the county has recently moved their GIS mapping to ArcGIS, so it's just taking some time to transfer all that information over. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay there, but the town of Minto has fulfilled the mandatory municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act and Regulation 380-04 for 2021. Thanks. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councillor Elliott.
As I was looking at the people that are members, should not Councillor Anderson be a member of that emergency team since she's the chairperson of this?
I
Yeah,
agree.
it
I
makes
wasn't
sense to
aware
me.
this was coming up until I read the agenda. I hadn't heard anything from Chief Harrow in regards to this, but it would make sense to me.
And sorry, are you discussing the committee members or?
Yes,
the-
that's correct. The committee
committee
members that are
members.
there, and she is chair. You got 14 people that are involved, and probably we should have 15.
Okay,
She is
sure.
chair of that committee. Or chair of not that committee, but chair of emergency services.
Emergencies, yes.
Right, for sure. Yeah, that change can be made. As is noted in that recommendation. So any other persons or agency representatives that may be appointed by council for time to time. So you can be added if that is the desire of of council.
And that may need to be turned over to Mayor Bridge as he usually discusses members.
I would imagine Mayor Bridge could make the appointment if he wished.
I guess, how many times do they meet? You know?
Just once a year.
That's what I thought. It's just once a year, so,
I don't know.
yeah.
Chris, I saw you come on briefly.
Yeah.
Did you have something to comment there?
No.
I saw him briefly. He's disappeared, at least on my screen.
Sorry, I apologize for that. No, I'm just dealing with an incident, but no, I have nothing to report. No, it's all good.
Okay.
So
So I'm
I'm
perfectly
thinking,
willing to
I'll look
sit on
into
it.
that, Councilor Anderson. I don't think
Okay.
there'd be a problem, but I can certainly look into it. And it's once a year, and I don't know when the actual meeting usually takes place, but hopefully it'll be virtual. It might be real, the next one, but
Yeah.
we'll figure that out for you. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for an excellent report. It sounds like the committee is very productive. It's got some good issues there, and certainly it's stuff that's near and dear to my heart in my role as a nurse. Lots of safety things that need to be looked at and addressed across the region. The recommendation is that the town of council maintains the 2016 appointments of the Emergency Management Programming Committee with, I don't know, do we add in potentially an additional member for the County of Wellington, and approves an alternate as designated language per member as follows?
Is Derek on there? I don't, Derek,
Through you.
Annaleen, go
Yes,
ahead.
through you, Mayor Bridge. This motion is just actually accepting the report of the status. The motion prior to that, Councillor Anderson, which I don't know if you've read it all out, was any other person or agency representatives that may be appointed by council
sorry.
from time to time. So this one here is moved by Deputy Mayor Turton and seconded by Councillor Elliott. That
Okay.
council receives emergency managers CEMC's annual emergency management program report for 2021 and accepts the report on the status of the town's emergency management program for 2021.
So I think I can appoint you, Councilor Anderson. It has to be in the actual document.
Okay, all right. So is anybody opposed to that? Seeing none, that is passed. And now I'll pass the chair back to Mayor Bridge.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Yep, and I'm all ready for it now. You see, I wasn't ready for it before. So basically, we're into planning now. We have 3 planning things that we're working on today, and I'll turn it over to Ashley to run us through these planning options here. Go ahead.
So good evening, Mayor Bridge and members of council.
Oh,
So
and this is the one, sorry, I see she's already gone. Okay, this is the one that
For
Judy
you, Mayor
declared a
Bridge,
conflict.
I don't know if it was announced in open session that Councillor Dirksen had already said that she had a conflict for this.
Yes, she has a conflict due to the fact that they rent some land. So, okay, go ahead. Ashley.
so this severance is for the old Schlegel's property at 6036 Highway 89. They're proposing to sever off approximately 2 acres from their 100-acre property. The property is designated in the official plan as secondary agriculture, which does permit for lot creation of a minimum size of 1 acre. So long as it can be serviced, meet the MDS requirements, be on an opened public road, is well removed from the settlement boundary, and has been owned by the applicant for at least 5 years. Secondary agriculture residential lots are considered part of the rural portion of the municipal growth strategy at the county level. The property will be zoned for single detached and accessory structures. The proposed severance fabric meets the lot frontage and area requirements, and when it comes to the building envelope stage, once known, they'll have to meet their setbacks and floor area requirements. So we are recommending council recommend the approval of the severance to the Land Division Committee with the town conditions outlined in the report.
Okay, questions?
The second one is for a lot line adjustment at 6119.
Oh, we can bring Judy back in. There she is. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. 6119 and
I
61.
apologize. Mayor Bridge, did you announce who were the movers and seconders on that one?
I did not. And they were moved by Councillor Elliott and second by Councillor McKenzie. Sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ashley. I keep interrupting you.
That's okay. So this lot line adjustment is for the property at 6119 and 6133 Wellington Road 109. So it's just on the outskirts of Harrison there. 6133 has recently been purchased by new owners who are looking for some additional space for their ag commercial property. My understanding is that they have the intention of fixing up the existing structure and potentially building a new one, and they need more space for their business to operate efficiently. So they're proposing a lot line adjustment with the neighboring farmer to bring an acre of his land into their property. Lot line adjustments are permitted in prime agriculture areas for minor boundary adjustments if no new lots are created. Town zoning on the property will continue to be agricultural commercial, and the portion subject to the lot line adjustment will be A1. If the owner is looking to develop a structure on the portion that's zoned A1, they will require a rezoning to ag commercial. Other than that, town staff note that standard conditions apply in addition to a condition regarding the existing municipal water servicing on the property. Because the property is technically outside of the urban boundary, they do have the option to install a private well and abandon the existing municipal water servicing, which the owner has indicated may be their preference due to the nature of their business. If that is the case, they'll be required to install a new well at their expense. If they continue with municipal water, we would like them to enter into a maintenance agreement, just as the line may not be strong enough to accommodate their potential future business demands.
Thank you.
Other than that, we're recommending council recommend the approval of the severance to the Land Division Committee with the conditions in the report.
And that was moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor McKenzie. Any questions on that? Seeing none. Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay. Go ahead, Ashley.
Right. So this last one is for a part lot control. This one's a little exciting. So it's for the Right Haven townhomes, blocks 23, 24, and 25. This is so the lots can legally be split and sold with distinct and separate ownership. The developer does have some closing dates in December for some of the units. And zoning provisions are proposed to be met. You may recall minor relief needed for some of the interior units regarding their lot area and frontage. At this moment, town staff do not have any concerns regarding the use of the part lot control, and we are recommending that council considers passing a bylaw authorizing part lot control to be utilized.
Thank you. This is moved by Councillor Gudson, second by Councillor Elliott. Council of Town Minto receives the planning technician's report regarding part lot control exemption application for the Right Haven homes limited for property legally described as parts 1 to 17, block 23, 24, block 25, registered plan, 61M 237 in the former town of Palmerston with municipal addresses of 100, 102, 104, 106, block 25, 101, 103, 105, 107, 109, block 24, and 111, 113, 115, 117, 119, block 25, Stevenson's Way, town of Minto, and considers passing a bylaw in open session. So it's nice to see all those and that they're built. This subdivision has gone so well. I just want to say we thought they would take 5 or 6 years to build out, and they're almost built out now. So it just goes to show what growth there is there in Palmerston and in our town. So anybody opposed? Carried. Okay. And it's up to Annalene now, and we're going to do a road closure.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. And of course, this is a good news one. It's a temporary road closure for a Clifford event. The Clifford Connects Committee is planning a Clifford Christmas in the Street for November 27th, which is coming up very soon. And there'll be vendors market, music, horse and wagon rides. And the Clifford Fire Department will also be doing socially distanced photos with Santa and we leave barbecuing some hot dogs at Celebration Square. It is just one block of Allen Street from Melora to William that they're looking to close. There's no financial considerations.
Great. And this is moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Gusson. The Council of Town of Minto receives the temporary road closure for events report from the clerk for information. Consider passing the temporary road closure bylaw in open session. Questions? I just have one, Mike. Did they get paved today? Is he there? Maybe he's gone. Derek, did it get paved?
It did indeed get paved today.
Excellent, excellent. When I had this came up and I asked, I had driven up through Clifford and it hadn't been paved yet. I thought, we're gonna close the road, it's already closed. But Mike's assured me it was gonna get paved, so it got all paved. That's great. It'd be a good time to celebrate that.
The base coat got paved.
Yeah, that's all we're looking for at the moment.
Yep.
Anybody opposed? Carried. We'll see you up in Clifford. Okay, I'm turning it back over to Deputy Mayor Turton to do the year-end results for 1920, or no, 2020, sorry, 1920, 2020.
Does seem like 100 years ago.
No, I know it.
I think the chair is on mute.
Chair's on mute. There we go.
Pardon me, sorry about that.
There you are.
Thank you very much, Gord, for this report. And so if you want to lead us through it, the final report.
Certainly. This one has smaller numbers than our initial report. So this is more on the way we actually do things, which again, I remind you includes including long-term debt principal payments and capital expenditures as actual expenditures. So we had you know, in such an unpredictable year, I was very happy to see our overall budget variance was 2.9%, which is good in a normal year. As we know, a lot of unanticipated expenses. Who'd be thinking that we would be buying, you know, PPE and sanitation supplies like there's no tomorrow. And then of course, in our facilities, that's where the big effect was. We just couldn't have people or do things. Economic development, all these great plans for our events, and most of them didn't take place. So you kind of have a tension between reduced revenue, but we also reduced expenses in a lot because so many of our activities are variable. And we certainly got support from the province and to some degree the federal government too. And I think we've said it many times, municipalities asked for help and we did receive it in quite a measure. And the results wouldn't have been quite as good without that support. So yeah, basically we're looking at a surplus of more like $136,000 and some capital transfers. which is a much smaller number. And then as part of the surplus that we transfer to reserves are water and wastewater. Wastewater was a lot closer to break even, water a bit better, but as I know we've discussed in the past few months and years, we have to have a surplus that we can reinvest in our infrastructure. And there's some really big projects coming up in the next few years on water. And as you know, we just borrowed $2.5 million for our clarifier for wastewater too. So those surpluses, while they look nice, they're used up very quickly. So again, I was pleased, and I think we all were, with the operations of so many of our departments that had to really change, and say overnight, but within about 10 days to doing different things, to carrying out things in a modified manner. Hockey with practices and not games, and events. Basically, if they could be held, we're being held outside. And again, I'm looking at 2020, and 2021 so far is a bit more of the same, but positive too. I do think we are on the way out, but we're not out of this situation quite yet. So anyway, we were pleased with that, and what we'd like to do is allocate these surpluses back into reserves, and we'll bring them forward. And as we say, we're like a corporation. We reinvest any of the surplus right into our activities. So anyway, I'll entertain any questions or anything.
Does anybody have any questions for Gord? Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Gord mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Really pleased with both the federal and provincial government, both at the county and at the local level, came to the rescue of the municipalities to the point where we were able to not take this. If we had to take all this on without having that money from the federal and provincial governments, we'd be in a big deficit right now, and then that would have to go to the property tax owners. So I really give them a lot of credit, and Gord mentioned it, and I just want to say, and I've mentioned it to both our representatives at the federal and provincial level as well. So yeah, it takes everybody in the boat, and we don't have the resources that they do at the federal and provincial level, and thank goodness they saw the need to make sure that they didn't make us not whole, at least. And I think 21, you're right, Gord, it'll be the same type of thing, maybe a little less, because we were able to do more things. But at the end of the day, we're in pretty good shape going forward. So for our next budget round. Thank you.
No other questions for Gord? Then it's moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Mayor Bridge, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report from the treasurer dated November 5th, 2021, regarding 2020 year-end operating results final. Anybody opposed to the motion? I don't see any hands, so that's carried. I'll pass the chair back to our mayor.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, next up is other businesses disclosed. I think Jeff, you had your hand up. Maybe you're going to do the same thing I was going to do, but you go ahead.
Probably. Just a reminder, Santa Claus Parade this Saturday in Hairston at 7. And we just talked about it in Clifford next Saturday.
Yeah, and Palmerston the Saturday after that.
Correct.
And by the way, just on that, and thanks for bringing it up, Jeff. Mike's been working with Paul, and we're going to be, our float this year is going to be actually the trailer, I believe. Mike, are you on there yet? Or?
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be.
Explain to what it's going to be. I haven't seen it yet, so.
Well, it's going to be a surprise. Paul's been working diligently getting it all prepared. It will be our smaller wreck utility trailer, just pulled by one of our F-150 pickup trucks.
Right. Yeah.
So if there's anybody that wants to offer up driving the float for all three, that would be great.
Can you back it up, Deputy Mayor?
Yep.
Okay. because I can't back up with a hitch. I'm terrible with it. Anyways, Judy probably could too, but I couldn't. And just on that, I want to maybe Annalene, if you could send a note out to remind everybody, and if you can give us a little heads up if you're going to be on the float, just so we know we're not when we're waiting to get loaded up, and the times we need to be at the spots to get started and where. That'd be
Who's
great.
bringing the candies?
Well, I don't think we're allowed to show candy. I think if Chris is on there, I think we're not. Or Jeff, can you give us an indication, or do you remember?
I'd better not comment on that because I'm not sure.
I'm going to be contacting public health tomorrow to get verification of what we can do with candy. So I will send an
Let
email.
us know, and then
I will
we'll.
send an email out tomorrow, letting you know for sure.
Okay, that's great. Good question, and then we'll figure it out. Deputy Mayor Turton. Okay, Councillor Elliott.
Just want to say I drove through Harrison and Clifford and Palmerston now. The lights are up on the posts and they look
Yes.
phenomenal.
Yes, they
Phenomenal.
do.
Palmerston's got some new lights this year with trains on it. Just look great. And the boys have also put lights across the top of the bridge and they look great. I think it was Greg and Dwayne and our new girl. I'm trying to remember her name. But anyhow, they put them up and they look really, really good. I also want to say I went and got my booster shot today. And when I was at there, they were talking about getting it. I went to Arthur because it's full up in Palmerston when it comes. And they were telling me that the best place that they've worked out of, the people that operated it, is Palmerston.
Yeah.
They said it was just phenomenal how the staff treated them and what they did for them. And they did say a place that wasn't so good, but I'm not going to say that, Vince. But across Wellington County, Palmerston was the best. And that goes kudos for our staff. And I really appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Elliott. And I had heard that too from some sources as well, that the Palmerston clinics were well run and look well done. And I thought you'd bring this up, but I'll bring it up. Light Up the Park is on Friday night.
Right.
And that was one of the things. And also on Friday, if you get a chance, we're opening up the early on. Now it's going to be just outside at 11 o'clock if you can make it. It's now going to be open to the public, which is great. As you know, the old daycare center was revamped, and then COVID came and a lot of the programs couldn't be run, but now they're going to be able to start running them again. And we're going to do an official opening on Friday morning at 11. So if you can make it, you won't be going inside. So make sure you're well dressed as far as the cold or whatever, but I'll be there. And I think Councillor Anderson, the County Councillor Anderson will be there, I think, and as well. So if anybody else wants to show up, that'd be just great. And there's a whole bunch. Take a chance to look at all the stuff that is Belinda on here? Belinda, can you just do an overview of all the neat things that are happening, starting tomorrow night, ladies' night, which I'm not allowed to go out, but I'll babysit maybe, but go ahead.
Yeah, we're excited to finally be able to do events again. So we piled them up. We've got 4 in 2 weeks. Starting tomorrow night, we have ladies' night, lots of fun with flair bartenders, specialty cocktails, warming stations, fire glow artists walking around, and of course the businesses are open till 8. So lots of fun for the ladies. But the men are always welcome as well. We'll take everyone's money. Friday night is our Light Up the Park event in Palmerston in partnership with the Lions Club. So we have hot chocolate at 6 o'clock, and then the lights will go on at 6:30 with always a little surprise fireworks, but not so much a surprise anymore. Photos with Santa at the museum, horse and wagon rides. The library's doing take and make stuff. Then next week on Thursday, we have our Kris Kringle Market from 4 till 8 in downtown Palmerston. I think we're up to 50 vendors outside. There's food trucks, the businesses are open late. We have the DJ playing the tunes, so that'll be fun for shopping. And then on Saturday, as Annalene highlighted, we are partnering with the Clifford firefighters this year to do some stuff before the parade. Again, the horse and wagon rides will be there, fire pits, obviously great restaurants in Clifford, so go enjoy some dinner. And yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of fun in November here, so hope to see you out.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Belinda, and thanks for all your hard work and your crew's hard work and doing all these functions. Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly, after the parades, is Santa going to be available for the kids, or how is that working?
I know that in Clifford, they do have plans to use the gazebo and make it into like a snow globe. So Santa's going to be sitting in the snow globe and the children will be outside to get photos. And they'll be giving out treat bags and hot dogs. I'm not sure, maybe Councillor Gunson or Chief Harrow could speak to Hairston and Palmerston. I'm not sure if there is meet and greets afterwards or not.
So in Hairston, I do not believe there is.
No, Councillor Gunson's correct. There is nothing after the Hairston or Palmerston parades this year. They're just happy to have a parade and get the parade going. But I can say that we've had numerous people calling us and wanting to book floats, but we don't take bookings. We just ask you show up the night and we'll get you lined up in the parade. But the interest this year has been way more than we've ever had previous years. So hopefully that means that there's going to be a lot of floats show up for all three parades. So we're pretty excited.
Great, super.
The Lions have rebuilt their float. It's huge. You should see it. Great. I was proud of that.
That would be great, Councillor Elliott. We appreciate that. Maybe just hold off on the fireworks this year down Main Street would be.
Yeah, the boys.
Yeah, none of those buildings we want to go up anymore. Okay. All right. Anybody else got any other business? No, good. Okay. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Anderson, that the committee of the whole convenes into regular council. Anybody opposed? Nothing. Okay, good. Notice of motion, Deputy Mayor Turton. Notice of motion to reconsider deferring requests for the COVID-19 funds. Go ahead, Deputy Turton.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I mean, last meeting, we made a motion to defer spreading out some of the money that we got from the government. We had two groups looking for money. We'd already given two other groups a month or so before some money. And so, and I think the issue was we were only going to have $5,000 left in the bank, but I think that it's a lot easier to give the money out that we have. And when the money runs out, it runs out, rather than asking people. We know how much money's sitting there. And if we get 10 different people, 10 different groups asking for money, and we're still going to run out, and we're still going to, you know, how do we share, or how do we figure out exactly what we're giving to each request? And I just think that we need to reconsider it. And my thought was to reconsider that motion, give the money out, and when we run out of money, we run out of money.
You're moving that motion, Deputy Mayor Turton?
Yeah.
And I need a seconder. Councillor McKenzie. Okay. Do you want to speak to this now, or do we have to call the question to see if it goes back on, I guess? Is that the way it goes, Annalene?
So no discussion of the main question should be allowed until the motion for reconsideration is passed by 2/3 majority.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'm asking for a motion to pass to, I guess, discuss at this point in time, or whatever, to get it back out.
Right, so we do need a 2/3 majority. If everyone's voting, then that's 5 people.
Okay. Anybody opposed to that? Maybe I'll do it that way. Opposed to it? 1, 2. Okay, then that carries.
I'll ask in favor as well. I would ask in favor as well, sorry. Just so I can see all hands. That's 2 opposed. I would need in favor.
Okay, how many in favor? How many in favor then? Okay, I got 5 in favor then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna bring it back now now we can discuss it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
All right, good. Okay. I'll open up the floor for discussion at this point in time. And I know Deputy Mayor Turton's made his comments, so anybody else? Councillor McKenzie and then Councillor Elliott.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. How much?
Mr. Mayor, if I could go first, I think it's important, just sorry. I did declare
Oh, right, okay.
pecuniary interest, which is probably not, I have no money coming into my household. I didn't have to, I did it because I'm a Lions member, and I just, the perception of being a Lions member and voting for it was the only reason. In fact, probably I was okay to do that because again, there's no dollars coming in to my household from the Lions. In fact, money goes out of my house to the Lions. So, but I will, for perception's sake, declare, and I'll mute myself and stop my video.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elliott. Okay, sorry, Mark, I should go ahead.
Fine. So through you, Mr. Mayor, how much is there left to dole out of the
Well,
COVID funds?
and I guess I'll speak to that, and unfortunately I wasn't there at the meeting. I would have said it at the meeting. I think we got caught up with the idea that there's limited funds. You know, we had put away X number of dollars, sure. And I think Gord had mentioned $5,000. I watched the video, so I think it was 5,000, and there was left after if you did the two that you deferred at the moment. So, but again, Gord, I mean, for some reason the press picked it up, to be honest with you, and they basically said everybody has the 1st of December to come in. And that wasn't necessarily what was said exactly. So at the end of the day, like if there's a group out there, in my own personal opinion, that needs money to survive, then I think we'd be open to talk to them and find out what we can do for them. My point was, I know we had a limited of, I think it was 60,000, was it not, Gord, approximately we put away?
Yeah, the 5,000 again was if we went from what we originally allocated and we gave the money to the groups that we had to that date, we would be around 5,000.
Right. But if we have more groups come in and that really need it to survive, and in fairness, we've talked to most of the groups out there, and they haven't come forward yet. I mean, we had another one, I believe, and we're not, whatever, but we haven't had a lot, because in a lot of cases, their costs weren't the same, and they got free rent, or they didn't run things, so they didn't have costs and expenses. But at the end of the day, my own personal opinion is, I would be willing to say, go ahead and send the money out that's there, but keep it open till the 1st of December, and we'll deal with them on an individual basis. And if we have to put more money in the pot, we discuss that as a council. But I'm with Deputy Mayor Turton at the moment, like, let's just move out the money we've got. If we've got 5,000 left, if there's more people come in and they use up that 5,000, but there's more need, I don't want to see any of our organizations not survive this COVID. And that was originally what we talked about. So I appreciate everybody's concerns that there's only limited money, but at the end of the day, if we have a real need, I think those organizations could come in and talk to us and send the request in. So that's my thought. And I would have said that the last meeting, wasn't here. But I think everybody was on the right idea of where they wanted to go with this, to make sure nobody was left out. I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, I don't think I would have said at the point, nobody's going to be left out of this game. Like, if there's a real need, we'll make sure that organization survives if we can. That's my.
Yeah.
That help, Mark? Judy, go ahead.
So part of my reason for my comments at the last meeting was that there's no measurement of how destitute the groups are that have applied at this point. And I'm not saying they aren't. I mean, we're just taking everybody's word for it. So, what you're saying is, if anybody else has shortages that they will not survive, then we would look at it. And that's different than the money that we've already handed out and that we're proposing to hand out in the, from last meeting. I guess, you know, for me, I just, I spoke out against, I spoke pretty clearly last meeting, so I couldn't in good conscience, with a good conscience, vote in favor of the notice to reconsider.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so are you proposing then, what we have to do is if we just go ahead, Annalene.
Councillor Anderson wants to speak.
Councillor Anderson.
Sorry, I didn't see Councillor Anderson. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Anderson. I didn't see you mute.
So again, I somewhat, I understand that we want to help groups out, but I'm sort of curious about the Lions, and I mentioned it in my first or comments on this report, how it is that they don't have any funding left to operate, and I'm gathering that's a mandate of the Lions Club itself. For I'm not sure how that goes, that if they raise funds, they can't put any of them towards their own expenses. And I also gather that they get some of their money from the rental of the hall. But does the town not own that hall?
You're right. Okay, that's a good point, Councillor Anderson. Here's what I would say to you on that. One, certain things like poppy funds and other things only can be spent on certain things. The Lions Club, I do believe, cannot spend any of they raise for charity under charitable lottery or whatever. They have to put it towards charities, which they do a lot of in Palmerston. The other thing is, although we do own the hall, we had an agreement with the Lions that they rent the hall. They pay all the, and I believe I'm right on this, Gord, or Derek can maybe back me up on this. They pay the expenses, the water, heat, hydro, that type of thing. So they wouldn't have had any revenue. They still had to keep the building going. So in a sense, if they give the building back to us, we would have to keep the building up and running, right? And so I believe we do the major expenses, like say a roof, like a landlord, but I believe they handle the day-to-day operations. Am I right, Gord?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor Bridge. Yeah, we have a few of these agreements where it's mutually beneficial, and the groups donate a lot of the labor and the upkeep, and it's one less building that we have to do routine maintenance on.
Okay, so I was just trying to gather where that, because I wasn't aware that we owned the building. I didn't know the history. But as somebody commented last week, they will have the opportunity now to rent the building, and certainly groups and things are eager to get back in person meetings. So I think it was more the size of the amount for that one group. And as I say, we were told that was the end of the money. So to have other groups not come forward, we didn't realize there was a flexible amount of money. I'm not sure how that will work, but I think that's the concern, is that it's a big chunk of money on my behalf. Anyway, that was my concern. It's a big chunk of money to one group and then potentially nothing left for other groups, which didn't seem entirely fair.
Well, I guess, and the other thing I didn't think was fair, to be honest with you, was we started this program. We didn't ask we had a letter that explained as best we could from the hockey. We have a letter, and of course, and we just had a delegation from the seniors, and we didn't ask them for financial statements or anything. So you can't change the rules. What I'm saying, Councilor Anderson, I don't think, you know, we didn't ask anybody else for that. I do feel that the Lions Club are very, very upfront with where they are right now. I've talked to the president. They need this money. If they don't get this money, it's going to really hurt them going forward. And to be honest with you, they spend a lot of time in they did so much labor for us over in that park. Just this last year, it would have cost us $30,000 or $40,000 if we would have had to put that labor in. So I mean, I don't want to second guess somebody that's coming. If I would say to that any group that's coming out, look at yourself first, make sure that it's a real need, and you come with that real need. And I think this council will look at that need. But I don't think we want to change the rules in mid strike, which I thought we did. So I'm sorry. That's what I would have said last week if I would have had that opportunity. Go ahead.
And I'm not suggesting that we change the rules. As you say, the first group came. I'm just saying, my only concern was the size of the amount, not saying, and I didn't understand how that worked. I wasn't aware that we owned the building. Maybe I should get a list of all the buildings that we potentially own. I think I'm only aware of some of those agreements, not all of them. And just didn't want another group to be not aware that the money was out there. And I don't know how people found out that the money was out there unless just through reading the Wellington Advertiser. I don't know that we reached out to any groups or like we knew it was out there, but we sit on council.
I do
just a
believe
question of fairness.
most of the groups knew there was money available. There was money given out. Derek, do you want to speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Matt Libetz did reach out to our community user groups and let them know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another point. I mean, I heard that at department heads that the groups weren't, they had talked to other groups, but they didn't need any money. So
right
there we are.
And I think there's a lot of groups that don't need any money. The Hort Society certainly doesn't need any money. And I don't think groups would come forward. It's just a concern if somebody wasn't aware. I think Judy and I had the same concern that you didn't want to see somebody left out, but I didn't understand there was flexibility. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, Annalene, where are we at this? We just got it back on the floor. Can somebody make them, is there ability to make a motion?
Yeah, so it's like they were never considered before. It's all back on the floor again. So a motion can be made to give them the money or whatever council wishes to do.
Okay.
That's what you need to do at this point in time.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Turton.
Sure, I'll make that motion that we go ahead and give the two requests from the skating club and the Lions Club and let the chips fall where they may. If there's more people come out wanting money, we debate it and exactly what we've discussed. So I'll make that motion.
I need a seconder. Councillor Gunson. I'll call everybody and opposed to that motion. Okay, the motion's approved.
All right, thank you.
And hopefully, and I think by December 1st, we should have everybody that wants in. We'll see how it happens. Anyways. Thank you, everybody. Where are we? Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. Anybody opposed? Carried. Bylaws. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor McKenzie, the bylaw number 2021-87 to authorize the application for the Corporation of Town of Minto, the applicant municipality, to the Corporation of the County of Wellington, requesting the Corporation of the County of Wellington to incur debt and issue debt debentures in respect to the capital works of the applicant municipality be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and seal with seal of corporation. Anybody opposed? Councillor McKenzie, question.
I'm just wondering why the amount isn't included in the application.
Gord,
in the bylaw. It just kind of looks like it's open. Okay, should be. I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but I know it's 5,160,000.
yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't disguised anywhere.
No, it's just not there, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Annalene or Derek, do you want to speak to that?
Through you, Mayor Bridge. It is on the Schedule A attached to the bylaw. It gives you your total on there, 5,160,000.
Okay. Schedule A, I didn't see it either.
Yeah, it's not on. Fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay. Moved by Councillor Gutson, second by Councillor Dirksen, bylaw number 2021-88 to provide rules for governing the order and procedures for council of the Town of Minto be read first, second, and third time, passed in open council, sealed to the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. I got something come up my screen here. There, that's better. I couldn't see you, Ron, there. Something blocked you. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, the bylaw number 2021-89 to temporarily close roads in Clifford on November 27th 2021 for the community event be read first, second, and third time and passed open council seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor McKenzie, the bylaw number 2021-90, bylaw to exempt part lot control for lands being parts 117, 61R, 22, 117, block 23, block 24, and block 25, registered plan 61M 237 under section 57.1 of the Planning Act ROS 1990 is amended, be read first, second, and third time and passed on council seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Elliott, the bylaw number 2021-91 to confirm the actions of the council of the corporation of Town of Minto respecting the meeting held November 16th, 2021, be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? No. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Anderson, the council of Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. Anybody opposed? Good. Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.